Dabo Sweeney. Welcome to episode 111 of Pandemonium Reigns. I'm Dan. He's Mike. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, spending your time with us, letting us tickle your ears wherever you may find us at this moment. Listen, man, banger of a weekend, bro. Banger.
It was absolutely wild at times. There were games that went as expected, a la Georgia clapping Florida, running off 37 straight points on Florida. There were games I certainly didn't think when I posed that question to you late in the preview episode that all three games would be that close. That was just wild. I actually figured, I think I said it, I figured it would be USC or Miami that would fall if one of the three did. And almost all three did. But North Carolina, like you said, falls again to Georgia Tech. Have you seen the deal with Georgia Tech winning their even numbered games?
Yes, I have. They're such a strange team.
And that includes a loss to Bowling Green in an odd week.
Yeah.
Of note, they do play, I believe it's Clemson. I know it's Georgia in even weeks. So keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
I'm going to
go ahead and say that the Georgia Tech voodoo is at least going to come to an end by week 14.
Yeah, and if it's Clemson, let me check real quick. It is Clemson. It's actually Georgia Tech and Virginia this week, but in the next even week for Georgia Tech, it is Clemson. So that parlays perfectly into what we want to talk about with one Dabo Sweeney.
No kidding, Dabo Sweeney. If you haven't heard, it's not hard to find. Just Google search Dabo Sweeney and let your eyes and ears be tickled. I'm not going to recap the whole thing, but I did find an article here on the internet very quickly that puts it in summary really well. Basically, the weekend begins by the guest picker of the day on College Game Day referring to NC State as a basketball school and that Clemson's going to get a win. Clemson did not get a win. They caught an L straight to the forehead. So they're now sitting 4-4 after this loss to NC State. On Monday, they had Tiger Calls, in which Dabo Sweeney is a regular, obviously, participant in Tiger Calls. So a Clemson fan calls in, and you really can't tell this guy's age, but he basically says this. He says, "So, Coach, I'm curious. Why are we paying you $11.5 million to go 4-4?" The caller asked Sweeney after questioning his coaching hires and saying he sensed arrogance since post 2018. Sweeney has since agreed to a new 10-year deal worth $115 million in a contract that was originally signed in 2022. It's going to run through 2031. Anyway, Sweeney responds by saying, "You're part of the problem." To be honest with you, you are a part of the problem. He says this: the expectation is greater than the appreciation. I get what he's saying. And that's the problem, he says. We've won 12, 10-plus win seasons in a row. That's happened 3 times in 150 years. So if you want to know why Clemson ain't sniffed a national championship for 35 years, we've won 2 in 7 years. And there's only 2 other teams that can say that: Georgia and Alabama. Is this a bad year? Yeah, and it's my responsibility. I take 100% responsibility. But all this bull crap you're thinking and all these narratives you read, listen, man, you can have your opinion all you want, and you can apply for the job, and good luck to you.
Woof.
Yeah, right? So here's my initial thoughts. I agree with everything Dabo said. I agree. I think his argument is valid. And if there's a caller out there that thinks they can do the job better than he can, go apply for it. Because what he has done at Clemson is remarkable. Remarkable. 2 championships, national championships in 7 years. In the playoff era that we might have. Beating some dominant Alabama teams in 2015. A really good Alabama team in 2018. Right? Mm-hmm. And beating good Ohio State teams to get there.
Yeah.
So, if there's any arrogance, I think it's in the fan base, right?
I would have to agree. I mean, here's the unfortunate thing is, what you want your coach to say if you're in the spot that Clemson's in. is no, you're not paying me 10 years, 115 million to win, to go 4-4 through 8 games. That's what you want them to say. That's obviously not what Dabo said. The
Right.
thing is, I agree with both parties. I don't have a problem calling out a coach. I'm really quick to do that. That's my personality. I mean, I was calling out Tim Banks just to peel the curtain back. I was calling out Tim Banks in probably the third quarter of Tennessee's game with Kentucky that they ended up winning, just in a different format than they've won all year. But I don't really have a problem with either party. In fact, Tyler from Spartanburg, he before he said all that about the money and all that, he said, I was overseas serving in, I don't know exactly where, during the title runs, watching the games that he could watch. And that's the guy that Dabo gave that spiel to, which sits very, very poorly with me. And probably a lot of Clemson fans, probably a lot of national fans. Think about Dabo's perception. If you're not a Clemson fan, think about that. It is in the gutter.
Sure. Sure. I think it comes down to this, though. You can think all those things, Dabo. You messed up when you said it.
100%.
Messed up when you said it. And you messed up in the fashion in which you said it in, and how you basically lost your cool. You exploded. You have prided yourself on a culture that is positive. You've sold recruits. We've got great community. We have great culture. Coaching staffs love you, yada, yada, yada. And you lose it. You lose it. It's just not a good look for you. These words are totally different if it's coming from Saban, right?
Yeah.
It's totally different. It's totally different if it comes from Kirby Smart.
Probably, right? I would agree.
You could even make a case for Josh Heupel. Like, listen, dude, if you wanted to come in and resurrect this program, who was trying to get recruits here through McDonald's bags, and you're upset that we're in the positive win category, come on and do the job yourself, right? But Dabo has prided himself and Clemson on this Christian-like reputation, and you lost it, dude. I agree with you, Dabo. I agree with you. But you just don't. Your position, unfortunately, you just don't get to say that. That's what we're for, right? That's what you and I are.
Yeah, for. Exactly. And we've been hard on him. We've been hard on many, many others. We're going to continue to do that. It's really fun to do that, but you can't say those things out loud, especially to a fan who is in no form or fashion the problem. Because another thing that he said is, I've been coming to games with my dad, my grandparents, things like that. He's been going to games for a long time. Yeah. That predates the success of Dabo. He is not part of the problem. He is a loyal Clemson fan.
Yeah,
who might be feeling differently about that this week.
Yeah, for sure.
You cannot do that. I think someone, I didn't listen to it, but I was scrolling Twitter the other day, and I think someone found an example of Jeremy Pruitt handling a similar call better than Dabo Swinney.
Yeah, which doesn't bode well for Dabo.
Bodes very poorly. Like, the thing is, there's already things that you're not doing that you absolutely should be doing. You're not using NIL. You're worried about the name, image, likeness of God, which is not representative right now of how you're behaving, for one.
Sure.
But you're not using NIL as it should be to help and boost your program. You're not taking transfers. You won't take a commitment from a guy if he is taking visits after he commits to you. You're being extremely old school. You're probably the most old school approach to all this right now. Well, now what you've done is you've kind of shown your true colors. That ain't going to help you in mama's living room.
Right. I think it goes like this. If it's coming from me, I'm looking at Dabo and saying, dude, you have my grace. Like, whatever. I'm cool with it. I agree with what you said. But unfortunately, that's not how college football works.
Yep.
The media is going to hold this against you. And this is why I say you're basically not allowed to say what you're thinking. It's not even from me, dude. Like, it's from the national media and how they are going to now spin you, and how other coaches are now going to spin you. Oh, you want to go to Clemson? That dude is double mouth. Like, he talks this one way, but let me show you the way he acts when he gets frustrated. Oh, let me actually show you here. Here's the clip. And they play it for the recruit, right? He's lost it, man.
100%.
Right. And your Josh Heupels and whoever, your Jeremy Pruitts could even say, let me tell you how I'm going to act like when I lose my cool. I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it all the time. Right. I'm not going to pretend to use somebody that I'm not. And I'm not saying that Dabo is necessarily somebody that is not. I don't necessarily think that he's a bad dude. I think he's cringe as all get out. I do think he's a man of faith. I think he had a bad moment. And but my whole point in all this is this bad moment is really going to come back to bite him in his rear.
Yeah, like, I've gone as far this week, at least in texting you. I know I've probably done it with others, but I don't see a path to bounce back to championship success from this. I mean, if you do, you've now basically made it to where you're going to start over almost in order to get back to that point. Because sure, you've still got good players, you've still got highly ranked recruits on your team. But you're unless he changes, which he's not showing that he can really do all that well. I mean, think about it. Think about TCU's offense last year with the same OC that's in Clemson right now in Young Riley.
Yeah.
It looks like he might be being held back a little bit. I mean, I know that it's possible that Cade Klubnik was overrated. I mean,
sure.
in fact, it would probably be hard to argue that he was overrated at this point.
Sure.
But you're basically making it to where you're going to have to start over at this point if you ever want to get back to playoff success or title success. It's not like the ACC, though. Your schedule is going to be the problem because these are teams that you've beat for years and years and years.
Yeah.
FSU, Miami, this week, North Carolina State. And you're going to get to turn around now, and you're hosting them. I don't know if it's going to matter. You're going to host Notre Dame. Can you believe that Clemson is a home favorite in this game after all this drama? I mean, I can't right now, frankly.
Right.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you, though, is this pressure that he's obviously feeling because he wouldn't be responding this way. He wouldn't be like last week. I was really hard on him because of our team counselor's probably on suicide watch, whatever he said about that. Yeah. I was really hard on him about that because I think that's insane to say right now.
For sure.
At any time, really. To joke about it or to make light of it is insane. Where do you think this pressure is coming from? Is it something that he is projecting onto himself? Do you think that he actually is he can't possibly be creeping into hot seat territory simply based on the record because he is totally correct on the highest level of success that, frankly, he's brought to the program.
Yeah.
Where's the pressure actually coming from? To me, it's got to be all from within.
I think it's the intangible. It's the underlying standard that he has created within Clemson. Clemson they used to be known for Clemsoning, right? Wetting the bed right in the final minutes. But then they became the new Clemsoning was Clemson's going to the playoff.
Yeah.
They got a chance to win a title. So it's almost like a Saban virus, right? You have placed this ridiculous standard upon yourself, not even intentionally doing so, like the fan base has done.
Oh, yeah.
The fan base has done it to you. And when you don't meet that, you're a failure. And I think that's exactly what he's saying is you're a part of the problem. Like, so I've done all this and we're having a rough year, but I should be fired. Okay. If that's the way you think, you come and do it better. You have the success that I've had. You sustain that for as long as I had. And then the minute you slip up, all right, they're going to be all over you. So I think the pressure is just coming from, I'm going to say, unrealistic expectations driven by fans and the general media, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And I guess part of what it boils down to as well is that he probably should have done a better job to this point of tuning some of that crap out, because the reality is for 95% of programs not named Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Clemson to this point, that you're going to have a tough time replacing guys and maintaining a field roster of NFL guys, of the correct quarterback, the depth at running, you name it, of the depth. You're going to have a tough time doing it. It seems to me, though, that he must have been paying attention through some format. I don't know if he's on social media, if he's reading the newspaper. Seems to me that he's obviously dug too far into it. He's looking at those comments that are, again, I mean, obviously some are going to be out of bounds, but fans have every right to question a guy with that contract. I mean, but it looks to me like he's obviously dove too far into it, and then he gets one in his face, like a call from Tyler, and the self-control is just not there from him right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's on social media because he did that whole hickory dot coach when he's on TikTok. Right? So, yeah, cringy.
Yeah.
I've said what I've said about him, said my piece. I do want to end it just by saying this. Clemson, it could be worse. Shane Beamer could be your head coach.
Boy, could he. You still big brother right now.
Guy is a used car salesman. I mean, just wrapped in head coach clothes. I mean,
yep.
They took another L straight to the forehead as they lost to Texas A&M. Don't really want to cover that. I only bring it up to, how do I say this nicely? Laugh at you. Ha! We had a listener text us and say, "Hey, man, what did Shane Beamer do to you guys?" And I would just say to you, Shane Beamer is Butch Jones undercover. And I just want to, just for the listeners, and I told him I would do this. He responds by basically saying, "Agreed, man. The pregame music is better than the football team." God, they're so bad. They are so bad. And you know
they're terrible.
What's bad? What's worse about it is they're not going to cut ties with Beamer. They're just not going to do. And you've got people like the Spurs Up show who says they need to hold on to Beamer and rid themselves of the entire coaching staff. I think it starts from the top. I mean, I do think you got some defensive coordinator issues, but I don't know how you come to terms with holding on to Beamer.
I've said this going back to probably before they did upset Tennessee and Clemson last year. Probably from the moment that they let go of his buddy that was the former offensive coordinator in Satterfield, White, whatever it is.
Yeah.
He had a chance to make a move.
Yeah.
You could have hired anybody as your offensive coordinator, and you hired a retread coach that was the tight ends coach at Arkansas in Dowell Loggins. For what? Just so you could get Trey Knox in the transfer portal? The offense is a massive problem. They've got injuries all over the place. I'll give them that. I don't think they're much better than 500 if they're a 100% healthy team. They can't protect the quarterback. That seems to be more of a depth issue than it does an injury issue. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to have some better options when you've got Spencer Rattler, who can be a mobile guy anyhow, and you can't even keep him upright or protected from any angle, inside, outside, you name it, to allow him to make plays down the field.
My issue with them is you've got 2 years now, and I agree with everything you just said. You got 2 years now where you've got a freak athlete in the offense and you haven't figured out how to use him.
Yeah. And I think now they might have two. They might have multiple. Is what I meant to say.
There you go. I was thinking Nick Harbor, and you got Leggett. If that's probably who you're getting at.
Well, and I was gonna include Trey Knox in that because they are 100% are not getting their return on investment with him. Well, and look, he's been someone that's been banged up as well. I'll give him that. But on the year, he's got 32 receptions for 277 and 2 touchdowns. I mean, you can do more with your tight end when they're as dynamic as Trey Knox was. I guarantee you, he was either if he was healthy last year, he was on pace for more, or he did a whole lot more last year. I stand corrected. Only 296 last year, but he did have 5 touchdowns. So I mean,
yeah,
what's the point? And I believe they usually rank fairly well and make a little noise when it comes to time to rank your transfer class rankings. Mm-hmm. They haven't addressed a single need yet.
Right. My whole point in me starting this was you had a change in offensive coordinator and you have the same problem. So is it your offensive coordinator? Is it your defense coordinator? Might be somebody else.
And I'd also fire back to, I like the Spurs Up. A lot of the things I see from the Spurs Up show, but how many times, for one, I've never seen a coach just make wholesale changes along the staff. For two, if he does set that precedent, if that's done, you're going to let them know that you get a couple years, a couple mistakes, or you're gone. That's what you're letting the next guy know.
Who would want to work for that?
Exactly. And the program is heading in the wrong direction.
For sure. You need to hit the reset button.
Yeah.
You need to hit the reset button.
Pandemonium reigns.